This is Duke University.
Rodrigo Toscano, I sometimes suspect, hears how the world talks to itself when it thinks no one is listening. What I find so deeply satisfying and so frankly inspiring is how the poet's mouth channels his ear. Toscano, the listener, is hypervigilant. He catches the words that make the world work and work in no way to everyone's equal benefit. And yet, while political critique is a pulse that runs throughout his writing, he never speaks from above or beyond the moment of struggle. As fantastic as his diction can be, his delirious juxtapositions, he gives us both the words that people use in their lives and the words that people hear used about them in their lives. Toscano hears a clarity in the clatter all around us. He comes by this acoustic alertness honestly. As he once told an interviewer, "For me, growing up in the border regions of the United States, the San Diego-Tijuana general megapolis, code switching and speaking in two languages is something that millions of people do. To me, it's not just a poetic technique or as a sort of deployment of what's in my ability and then a sharpening of it." In his new work, Explosion Rock Springfield, we are reminded of the continuing congruence of the terrifying and the liberatory that Dionysius, by way of Nietzsche, contributes to the traditions of avant-garde theater, music, poetry, painting, and fiction. This extraordinary new work, dense and fugal, polyvocal and precise, is an incendiary meditation on the relation of birth, desire, and death in a world where a strip club stands next to a daycare center, and then the night that it doesn't. Please, on behalf of the program in Latina Studies at Duke, welcome Rodrigo Toscano.
The Friday evening gas explosion in Springfield Loveless strip club next to a daycare. Compañeros, obviamente el peligro presente no fue adecuadamente identificado, priorizado y, compañeros, no seguido por control del peligro actual. Compañero, todo esto resultó en la eliminación del peligro actual que no fue posible. Compañeros, su atención, por favor. The Friday evening gas explosion. Springfield Loveless strip club next to a daycare. Compañeros, obvious the peril, present, identity inadequate, priority making absence add. Compañeros, uncued the action control potential of peril. Compañeros, resultant in whole was elimination, none of peril actual therein. Compañeros, compañeros, attention's yours for a favor. The Friday evening gas explosion in Springfield Loveless strip club next to a daycare. The love implosion in New Orleans on Sunday morning gave rise to a twilight care next to a mausoleum. At the beginning of every hour, what is to be conjured? What is it to be spell strike? Hi, ha! At the end of every year, are weary eyes equal to standard computer screen definitions? At all times, what is vision? Is vision visionary at every moment of every vision? Give it a rest. We're booked up here. Is vision bent on betting? Is vision in-house? Is vision helplessly, goofily entranced? Or is it vision itself in the act of guessing? Or is it vision's thing to make others blind? Fabba-jabba. Preternatural patterns, flickering, flashing, floating. The arts, sciences, politics, humanities, death. The Friday evening gas explosion in Springfield Loveless strip club next to a daycare. Fact, your sense of choice. Fact, your choice of choice. Fact, your choice is choice. Fact, your choice is choice. In cylindrical hollows, the idea. In cylindrical hollows, the application. In cylindrical hollows, the conversion. In cylindrical hollows, the freedom. Twilight care when you don't. Twilight care when you can't. Twilight care when you won't. Twilight care when you most definitely ought not to. Fabba-jabba because the Prime Minister said so. Fabba-jabba because the Secretary of State said so. Fabajaba because the president's press secretary said so. Fabajaba because Sargon of Akkad's punctured bronze mask seems to say so. The Friday evening gas explosion in Springfield led to a strip club next to a daycare. Next to a daycare. It's next to a house of worship. Next to the house of pets. Next to a firehouse. Next to an ale house. Next to a house of comfort. Next to the Historical Preservation Society's Poets House. Next to Bob's House of Finance. Next to the House of Costumes. Next to Reclamation Project Housing. Next to a meth house. Next to a safe house. Next to the House of Hope. Next to the House of Action. Next to the House of High-Minded Adult Naughtiness. Next to a gas pipeline distribution hub. Next to Pipe Fitters Local 1138. Next to a cupcake shop. The Friday evening gas explosion in Springfield level strip club next to a daycare. The chorus is jank, right? Jank. This brand of cupcake mix, jank. This Velcro garter belt, jank. This old control panel, jank. This new contract, jank. This strategy session, jank. This form of prayer, jank. This place of operation, jank. This dope right here, jank. This title deed, jank. This Bullwinkle rave hat, jank. This investments vistas, jank. This venerated Popper's versifications, jank. This style of comfort, jank. This crooked rooster IPA, jank. This fire station Eurotrans party, jank. This hamster wheel with blinking lights, jank. This pastor's elevated metaphors, jank. This kind of care, jank. This way of stripping, jank. This town right here, serious, jank. This evening and all evenings before and after forevermore, jank. Thanks, folks. Yeah. Let's begin that there's no authentic voice that's mine. I mean, when we move in the world and we speak to people, we kind of steady up, you know, and I kind of like, you know, I kind of body up on you and I kind of look at you and I kind of figure what you are, what I think you are, what you think I am. And so I sort of hone to the way I talk and then, I do like that. And this is kind of the way we move in the world based on all these diffractions of identity and perceived notions of power and stuff. But when I turn to the poetic voice, my center is a very it's in a state of disequilibrium. Right. So therefore when I kind of wobble into a voice and what's the sort of what's the stentorian lecture guy and what's the sort of voicey fire person meets stripper or whatever, it's all kind of and by the way the one of the ways that I keep myself on task poetically is to use form. So all those were all six syllable lines. I edit a whole lot, to be honest with you. You do a take kind of in a swipe as far as you can take it, and then you wake up from that stuff, and then you kind of have to sort of, it's like a clothesline, and you have to sort of put different stuff up there, I'm going to switch out this, I'm going to switch out that, I'm going to switch out this, I'm going to switch out that. And then, but also I want that flow that I had to begin with. Though you probably noticed that I'm a sort of stop and go kind of rhythm person. And so figuring out sort of rhythm patterns as against other rhythm patterns is kind of what I'm after poetically, right? So like I hear a certain chop kind of coming that way. So I'm not going to do it again. Or if I'm going to do it again, I'm going to do it with different content, right? And then I'm going to vary the form. So write in the morning, edit in the evening. That's kind of, yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, so that's a good question. So it's like this. Okay, so at one point I was the composer, and now I'm the instrumentalist. So I got to play this thing. You know what I'm saying? How many of you play an instrument, piano or horn or anything? Like you read. Okay, so you know what I'm talking. So now you got to read the thing, and you got to interpret. Is this you're accelerating into this phrase, or you're doing, and now I got to, and the responsibility for you all, I got to hold it together, kind of render it in the way that I imagined it dramatically, but not go over the top as well, so it's a challenge, what you write doesn't determine how you're going to read it per se. I mean, there's clues, but you got to attune to the space here, or to the space that you're reading to. And so for this particular space, before I read, I thought, I thought this was a quiet room, this is a unique opportunity to really kind of revisit the score for all its sort of micro-rhythmic detail that I wanted to. I've been in bars, and loud bars, people drinking, carousing, and I've kind of read it kind of sloppily and almost like overly theatric way. And I felt really good reading it here. I felt like I could detail it a little bit.